this is the Motorola G82, Moto G82, whatever the heck you call it. I have it, and I know you guys had some questions in the previous video, and I'll try my best to answer the questions you had in this review video. Now, this device released in Europe quite recently, few days ago, I guess a week ago now, but I think it's more released in the UK than anywhere else. It might release elsewhere, but I have no idea for now. Now, first things first, I want to talk about the back design, and something about the back design is just so mesmerizing. Now, I understand it looks like the Motorola Edge 30 and pretty much any other Motorola phone out on the market right now, but it's just, the design is just so simple that I'm quite intrigued by it. But I think one of the reasons I like the back design so much is because of this color. It's called White Lily. I don't usually get white phones, probably because manufacturers don't sell white phones, but I do like this design. It's just so mesmerizing, and this color really, let's just say, complements the back design. Now, of course, if you want a slightly darker color, there is a color called Meteorite Grey. Build quality is just kind of what you'd expect for this price. Plastic back, plastic frame, plastic buttons, and by the way, the back is more of a matte finish than a glossy finish, so it's not as much of a fingerprint magnet as you'd think it is, but it's glossy right now because I've got this pre-installed case that they provided in the box, which is kind of nice. And also, if you haven't really noticed, around the Motorola logo there is some really nice attention to detail that Motorola has included. There are little tiny speckles of dots, let's just say, surrounding the Motorola logo, and I think that really looks glamorous. The button tactility is just kind of what you'd expect. It's just average, but on the right side you do get the volume button and the power button with the integrated fingerprint sensor. Regarding the fingerprint sensor, it just works, I guess. On the left side there is the SIM tray slot. Now, SIM tray slot, it can house either one SIM card with micro SD card, or you can have two SIM cards with no micro SD card expansion whatsoever. On the top there is a speaker and a microphone, and on the bottom there is a headphone jack. I know a lot of people like the headphone jack, as well as a microphone, USB-C port, and another speaker. Yes, this phone has two speakers, stereo speakers, which I'll get into later on in the video. Now, I'll have to give credit where credit is due. Although this phone has a humongous battery, just like any other flagship phone out on the market right now, it's not as thick as the flagships. Now, I'm not saying it's the thinnest phone in the world, but it's kind of more on the thinner side, and I do have to credit Motorola for that. And yes, it is even lightweight, and I could even hold it with my pinky finger, kind of. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. The camera bump, yikes. The camera bump is more on the minimal side, so you could basically put it on a table and text, but it won't wobble much. In the UK, I'm not sure about any other part of the world by the way, but in the UK it does come with NFC enabled, so you could basically go on Google Pay and spend your millions and billions of dollars anywhere you'd like. So yeah. It does not have wireless charging, but it does have IP52 rated water repellent design. It does have a somewhat speedy 2D face unlock, and the vibration motor is just what you'd expect for this price, but I will have to say it is more on the stronger side, so if you were to place it on, let's just say, a sofa or a table, you are kind of bound to notice the vibration. I think one of the main selling point about the Motorola G80 is more on the display. I say this because it's a 6.6 inch display with 20:9 aspect ratio, as well as 402 ppi. And not only that, it's an OLED display, not OLED, but you know, AMOLED, same thing, with 120Hz refresh rate. Now, other phones within this price category, they sometimes have 90Hz, they sometimes have 120Hz, but this phone, it does have 120Hz, so rest assured. It does have a Full HD Plus resolution, so when you're looking at text on Twitter, Reddit, it is pretty sharp and it's quite pleasant to look at. It comes with saturated color mode, which I do prefer by default, and the viewing angles are quite good as well. They're not too bad. If you do look at the bezel on the G82, I think you'll be content with it, because if you look at the, let's say, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G or the Nord CE2, more specifically the bottom bezel, if you compare the phone against those two, it is more on the thinner side, so I think you shouldn't really worry about the bezel. The size is perfect for one-handed usage. As you can see, I can almost wrap around my finger, but yeah, it's not too big, but then again, it's not too small for watching YouTube or Netflix without compromising on size. As for the brightness on this device, indoors it is excellent. Obviously you're in an indoors environment, however when you go outside it does get a bit finicky. What I mean by that is if it's quite a particularly bright day, the screen can get a bit reflective, so it's kind of hard to see what's on the display. Especially under direct sunlight, it does get a bit of a struggle to read what's on the screen, but I think for most people, and especially for the price, you can kind of squint your eyes and look at the display and it should be good enough for you. But I will have to say one small thing, and I don't know if it's like a manufacturer defect on this specific phone, but when I use white apps like Reddit or Twitter, I kind of notice like faint vertical lines. Now this doesn't show up on dark mode, but on white apps, white theme apps, you can just kind of see white vertical lines. Okay, it's processor time. Now this phone comes with the Snapdragon 695 5G. It's a 6nm processor, and I know this processor is capable of Bluetooth 5.2, but Motorola states that it has Bluetooth 5.1, which is kind of strange. But as the name suggests, it does have 5G capability. Motorola once again doesn't mention if it's sub-6 5G or if it's millimeter wave 5G, but it's probably the former. And I kind of have no complaints about it. 5G speeds on this phone is really good. In terms of Wi-Fi speeds and stability, I know a lot of people asked in the previous video regarding this topic. Let's just say this phone, it gets 45 megabits per second download and 13.3 megabits per second upload. Now put that in contrast to my iPad Pro 2018. I don't know if that's a fair comparison, that's up to you. I get 61 megabits per second download on my iPad and 15 megabits per second upload. That's kind of a substantial difference if you ask me, but in regards to Wi-Fi signal and stability, no issues whatsoever. Now look, I understand there are better chipsets and there are better phones out there. For example, the MediaTek Dimensity 900, there's also the Exynos 1280. Both those chips in terms of CPU, GPU, they do kind of get the upper hand on the Snapdragon 695. But if I'm being honest, I'm kind of content with the Snapdragon 695. I say this because in my day-to-day usage, opening, closing apps, just doing your basically average Joe what he does in his daily life, I don't have any issues with it. I think it just performs what I need it to perform. One small caveat though, at least a third of the times when I'm opening an app, when I'm closing an app, when you're resizing a screenshot and things like that, the animation, I know this display is 120 Hz, but the animation, like a third of the times, it feels like 60 Hz, it feels like 90 Hz. It doesn't feel smooth, you know? I don't know if it's to do with the chipset, I don't know if it's to do with Motorola's poor optimization of its software. As for the Geekbench scores, I know a lot of people fantasize about Geekbench scores. I'll just say it. Single core score is 667, multi-core score is 1910. That's pretty much almost up there with just every other Snapdragon 695 chipset phones. The GPU found in this phone is Qualcomm's Adreno 619 GPU. For this video I use Call of Duty Mobile for testing, but gaming on this phone, I do have to say I have no issues with it whatsoever. It doesn't get very hot to the touch either, which is obviously great for the longevity of the device. It does have smooth, consistent, predictable gameplay. I mean, I'm not surprised, it's a Qualcomm GPU. I mean, it never goes wrong. So to put it in short terms, gaming performance on this device is just awesome for its price. I have no complaints whatsoever. Okay, as for the cameras, I know a lot of people wanted to talk about the cameras in the last video. Main sensor is a Samsung ISOCELL JN1, a 50 megapixel camera with f1.8 with optical image stabilization. Now, this doesn't record 4K resolution, which some people might prefer. There is an 8 megapixel f2.2 ultra-wide camera, and lastly a 2 megapixel f2.4 macro camera. Now let's get to the juicy parts. Let's get to the pics. Not those toothpicks, these pics. I have no complaints about the images taken. They are, you know, rather vivid, rather sharp. The details within the images are, for its price, remember it's £300, it's fine, it's fine. Dynamic range on this phone is pretty cool, but don't expect to take sunset shots. Like, something will always be underexposed or overexposed, whether that is the sun or the environment. But yeah, don't take sunset photos, it's not going to turn out great. Ultra wide camera is great too, as well as the macro camera. The selfie pictures, I initially had beauty mode on. That was my fault. It made my face more whiter, more softer. But then when I turned it off, to be honest, the selfie images are kind of immaculate. It looks nice.
Okay, this is what the 1080p 30 FPS looks like. Selfie camera. Obviously the sunlight is behind, so you can actually see the dynamic range. Anyways, it's actually sunny in the UK for a change. There you go. Also, another thing I wanted to point out was that the perspective of the front camera is not as wide as you think it is, so you have to hold your arm out quite a bit of distance to get your whole body in. But that's about it. Okay, 30 FPS. I have no idea what this is. Probably a cherry tree or something, but I'm not very knowledgeable about that kind of stuff. And here are apples. Alright, I wanted to quickly demonstrate this dual capture feature this phone has, where it records the front camera and the back camera at the same time. And if you wanted to switch, you could also switch in real time. There you go. I don't know if you want to vlog or anything like that. It does have that capability. Now you do have the option to record in 0.5 times, well, the ultra wide lens, or you could do it with the primary camera. But once you hit record, you can't really interchange between the two lenses. It's just fixed until you well, stop recording, change the lens, and then start recording again. Yeah, there you go. So it is good for, let's just say, night photography because of OIS, and it's also good for video stabilization. I'm going to demonstrate right now. Like, I can't exactly run or jog, but I'll give it my best try. I'm already running out of breath. Alright. Yeah, I'm not exactly fit, so I'm going to stop running. But yeah, that's the demonstration of the stabilization. I also record with the 0.5 times ultra wide. I did want to mention that with the 0.5 times ultra wide lens, you can't exactly shoot 60 FPS. Now, I'm out of breath, man. I need to run more. Another thing that I wanted to point out is when you shoot 60 FPS, you would expect that the next time you open the app that it will remain on 60 FPS. But for some reason, when you open the camera app again, let's just say a few minutes later, a few days later, it goes from 60 FPS to 30 FPS. Now I don't know about you, but that's kind of a pain and a struggle for no reason. Like, I don't know why Motorola added this limitation.
There are extra features bundled within the camera app, like the slow motion, portrait, pro photo, dual capture, front and back camera. So it's very nice to see Motorola including this feature. I do want to quickly share this gesture which Motorola includes. I think it's very nice. To open the camera, on some phones you double click the power button, other phones you do whatever the heck you want. On this phone, boom, look at that. You can also customize it to open with the selfie camera instead of the back camera. I really do like this. Speaker time, or speakers, if you know what I mean, because it's stereo speakers, if you get the joke. If you don't get the joke, just the door's right there. The G82 does have stereo speakers. For its price range, some phones have stereo speakers, some don't. This one does. Stereo speakers, I believe it makes a big difference when you're listening to audio because it's more immersive, it's more vivid, it makes you feel like you're actually there. In terms of speaker quality, no complaints whatsoever. It does have Dolby Atmos, and there is a sound profile within Dolby Atmos called Bass Boost. And when you turn that on, I think the audio on this phone, no complaints whatsoever. One small caveat, once again, it's about the loudness. Now, you'd expect this phone to get up to a certain level of loudness, but unfortunately it doesn't. Now, in an environment like outside, when you want to share content with your friends, you'd put it to the max volume and then you'd share it with your friends. Your friends are going to be like, hey, could you turn up the volume just a bit more? And then you'd have to explain to your friends that, yeah, it doesn't get very loud. I'm sorry. Like, overall speakers are nice, but loudness is, I wish it could just be a bit more. Talking about the phone call quality, no complaints whatsoever once again, but I did have this small complaint from the receiving end of the call. Some people said that my voice sounded a bit faint, which is kind of strange. They've never complained about that before. As for storage and RAM, 128GB with 6GB of RAM, there is no other configuration available. In terms of RAM experience, I can have, obviously it depends, I could have 7, 8, 9 apps in the background and it just stays in the background without refreshing, which I think is more than adequate for most people. Now it does have a bulky 5000 mAh battery. For lightweight users like your average Joe, I think he will just get by 2 days no problem. But for a heavy user like me, I do start off my day at 7 AM, which is a bit earlier than most people. I do use things like almost max brightness, 5G, 120Hz, blah blah blah. I end the day 9:30 at night. I have 23% charge left. I don't know about you, but that's kind of good. That's alright for most people's needs. Now, screen on time isn't a good comparison to measure, but I got more than 5 hours of screen on time at 23%. I think that's good enough for most people. If you're wondering what the standby battery life is as well, I do sleep, let's just say I sleep at 11 PM and wake up at 7:30 in the morning. It drops from 20% to 17%, so that's a 3% difference. I don't think that's too bad. So the standby battery, no complaints again. Now, it does come with a 30-watt turbocharge supplied in the box. I know many manufacturers, they don't have a charger in the box. Heck, some manufacturers are even ditching the cable in the box. But yeah, no complaints about the charging speeds because 15 minutes gets you 27%, 25 minutes gets you 45%, half an hour gets you 54%, 42 minutes gets you 72%, 50 minutes gets you 82%, 1 hour gets you 93%, and in just 1 hour, 12 minutes, it fully charges. Now that's kind of almost identical charging speeds to my S21 Ultra. One difference being is Samsung uses 25 watts instead of 30 watts. Also, it does have optimized charging. It has overcharge protection. I do like these two features because it's great for your battery health. It's a shame that other manufacturers don't include these features. Now, it does come shipped with Android 12 out of the box. It's called Motorola's MyUX. This is actually my first Android 12 phone other than a Samsung One UI. And I have to say, Android 12 looks a billion times better than what Android 11 looked like. It looks more refined, more smoother. It's just more nicer to look at, whereas Android 11, I'm just saying, it looked like it was made for old people because of how simple it was. But this Android 12 is just so beautiful. The notification panel, the custom color palette theming, everything about it is just mwah. It's essentially like your Google Pixel UI, but with Motorola features here and there. Now, there are things like Power Touch. You basically double tap the power button and you just get shortcuts to the apps you use most. You can customize it. There is Attentive Display, there is Peak Display, which is kind of an alternative to an always-on display. There is 3-finger screenshot, but for some reason that doesn't work for me, I don't know why. There is Swipe for split screen mode. I don't believe there is many pre-installed apps installed. I can't recall, but I don't think there was. In terms of Widevine DRM level, it is level 1 security, and with Netflix you can get full HD resolution. There is no guaranteed length of software update support. Now, if you take a look at the Moto G60s, just as an example, that shipped with Android 11 out of the box. Android 12 has been out for many months and it still doesn't have Android 12. So this phone getting Android 13, I'm just saying I have no idea. It might not even get Android 13. It might get 5 years later down the line. The price of this phone is £289, basically £300, or in dollars it is $360. I do have to say, for the price and the specs you're getting, I understand there are some small caveats like the stereo speakers not being as loud as you'd hope it was. There's no 4K recording. I know some people like 4K, but if I'm being honest, truthfully, brutally honest, I think it's fine. For £300, if you were to gift this to your grandma, she would like it. If you were to gift this to your nephew, 10-year-old nephew abroad, he would love this, she would love this. So yeah, I think it's honestly quite a good device for its price, and yeah, I would recommend you get it. If you do have any questions, then do let me know down in the comments below. If I do get any more news about this phone, or if I did miss out on anything, I will add it to the description box. If you like this video, then like this video. And if you enjoy my content in general, then obviously click that red subscribe button. And that's all for now. Bye.